We are back at Hidden Spotlight Treasures, where we are going through the Sig Sakowitz files. Now, we have just begun looking through his files. We have not even scratched the surface, and I have found quite a few things that pertain to Las Vegas. So, this is Sig and his TV show back in Chicago. He was a radio TV personality. We've already gone over this picture when he was at Frontier 1973, and in our previous video we talked about his letter to the Governor Grant Sawyer. So like I said, we found quite a bit of stuff pertaining to Las Vegas, so I wanted to bring it to you in this video. I'm going to show you, and this is just the beginning. We'll probably have to call this part 1 because I'll probably find a lot more Las Vegas stuff. Let's start off with this picture from the Flamingo Hilton. It goes back to 1999. Maurice Hines. Now, he was the brother of Gregory Hines, and he was playing at the Flamingo with the great Radio City Spectacular, starring the Radio City Rockettes. Now, here's an interesting aerial picture of Las Vegas. Really nice picture of Las Vegas. Notice there on the left is the El Rancho. Of course, you know the El Rancho is gone. I think on the site of the El Rancho is the Fontainebleau. They built the Fontainebleau, but it never opened. So that must be an unlucky spot there where the El Rancho was. Now this picture, I believe this is that singing group from the 1970s, and they dressed up in costumes. I can't think of their name. The photograph is damaged a little bit. Now here's an interesting one. Marie, the Mistress of Magic. I've never heard of her, but she is quite stunning. And I'm not sure what hotel she worked in, but this was in the Sig Sakowitz files. If anybody knows anything about Marie, please leave a comment. A beautiful young lady indeed. And let's see what we have here next. Oh, this is the Imperial Palace file. Now, as you know, the Imperial Palace is no longer there. The Links, I think they call it the Links. They remodeled it. So the Imperial Palace goes way back. This letter we have here is from 1981. A lot of controversy with the Imperial Palace. The owner was Ralph Engelstadt, and apparently every year he would hold Hitler birthday parties, and all the executives would go up and have a little party. He collected Hitler memorabilia, and I think it was in the 1980s or 90s, he got fined $1 million. The gaming commission found out about the Hitler parties, and he got fined $1 million. So this is true. Back then it was the only Asian-inspired hotel. Now we have a new one just opened up this year. I believe they call it Lucky Dragon. It's over there on Sahara. Not quite as big as the Imperial Palace was. So I'm just going to show you some of the letters. This was again in the Sig Sakowitz files. He was a radio TV personality, not only from Chicago, but he did radio in Las Vegas too. As I said before, the Caesars Palace Corporation bought this hotel and they changed it to the Links. Now it's much different. Doesn't even look anything like this. They have the Ferris wheel over right beside there. They have a Ferris wheel. And let's see here. As you can see, it was kind of small in the beginning. Back in the 70s, it was not very many tables. I'm sure Ralph Engelstadt was a guy who probably was pretty conservative with his money. He didn't borrow a lot of money, and he just built it as he could, probably paying cash for quite a few things. That's what the old school guys like to build, with cash, because if you take out too big of a loan, well, you're done. Something the new guys have to learn. Okay, let's move on to the Dunes. Now this one is 1983. Bethany Owen. Yeah, her name is Bethany Owen, and she is an impressionist, does impersonations. Let's take a look at her picture. She was at the Dunes. Another very beautiful entertainer. If anybody has any information on these entertainers, any tidbits they'd like to share, please leave a comment. We'd like to know what these entertainers did. Did they move on to bigger and better places? Now here's the Desert Inn Spa. This is Jekyll and Hyde. The name of the team was Jekyll and Hyde, and they played in the lounge. They played at the Desert Inn. Jekyll and Hyde. They played at the Raffles Lounge. I'll show you a close-up picture, and we'll go to a better. Here's a better picture here. Many people, everybody had to come to Las Vegas and give it a try. Most people don't realize the first time that Elvis Presley came to Vegas, he failed miserably. Yeah, people don't realize that. Elvis, well, the people who came to Vegas in the 50s were a different type of group, and they didn't go for Elvis in the 50s. We'll talk about that later. Now here is Janis Harrington, and she is a showgirl. They got her measurements there, 36, 24, 36. The perfect model figure. Yes, I would say so. And she was at the Tropicana, one of the showgirls at the Tropicana. I wonder if they did a foul. I wonder if they put out a picture like this of all the showgirls. Or maybe she was just a special one. Maybe she was the top showgirl at Tropicana. I really don't know. But like I say, I'm going to be going through of all of Sig's files, and it's a huge, big file we got. We're going to everything that has it pertaining to Las Vegas. I'm going to make more videos and put it in part 2, part 3. We'll call this part 1. Janis Harrington at the Tropicana. Now here's this group, and this young lady played at the Cleopatra barge, Caesar's Palace. I believe it was 1982. Now, what was her name? Her name was Kelly and Company. Another spectacularly beautiful lady. Unbelievable. And her group was Kelly and Company, played at the Cleopatra's barge in 1982. Just a little bit of trivia here, a little Las Vegas trivia. The Cleopatra bar, or the Cleopatra barge, is still operational. They still have a live band playing at the Cleopatra barge. I believe it's one of the only old school lounges left in Las Vegas. So if you're ever at Caesar's Palace, stop in there at the Cleopatra's barge. It's really entertaining. So here's Kelly and Company. Oh, and it says she was an opening act for David Copperfield. She played around there, up there in Tahoe, to Mexico, to even the Miss World pageant. Now we're on to the Morris Shenker photograph. I think this is a pretty rare photograph of Morris and his wife. Now, this man had a lot of heavy juice in Las Vegas. Basically, he's responsible for the over $200 million in loans that the casino owners borrowed from the unions in Chicago. This man is responsible for facilitating those loans. I mean, you're looking at the guy who made it possible for many of these casinos to be built back then. He ended up running the dunes, and if Sig Sakowitz knew Morris Shenker, this would probably be his heavy juice in Las Vegas. What people may not understand the word juice in Las Vegas back in the day, your juice was the big guy who could help you get a job. Say like you knew somebody really big, they could put you in the Caesar's Palace. So to get a good job, you kind of needed juice back then. Today it's a whole different story because now I think the Asians are buying their jobs now. Totally different. Let's move on to the Siegfried and Roy program book. Now the reason why this is so interesting, it's from the Frontier. Now as you know, in 1989, Steve Wynn built the Mirage, and he brought over Siegfried and Roy. He gave him a big contract, brought him over to the Mirage, and it was the biggest show in Las Vegas. It was the show that you had to see. I actually did go see this show. One of the most fantastic shows I've ever seen in Las Vegas. I saw it at the Mirage, which is probably, it was probably a little bigger and more elaborate than at the Frontier. But this is where they started off here at the Frontier, and I'm going to show you the program. So a little background information on this show. I believe this show started in 1981 at the New Frontier Hotel and Casino, 1981. Now, what happened is, like I said, Steve Wynn gave him a big contract. The Mirage would have opened up in 89, and I believe they went on a world tour, went over to Asia sometime in 88, probably during the end of 88, right before the Mirage was going to open up. They took this show on a big tour. I knew one of the dancers, and back then I think she told me they were going to focus on Asia. So quite a bit of history with this show. Of course, the act came to an end in 2003 on October 3rd, 2003. During the show, Roy Horn was bitten on the neck and he was dragged by a 7-year-old male white tiger named Montecore. So the 7-year-old tiger, Montecore, brought the act to a crashing end. People say that the tiger did not really want to hurt Roy. It's possible that Roy stumbled and fell, and maybe the tiger was trying to save him. You know, it's just a dangerous business they were in. They were lucky that they lasted that long, and I guess there's no luck involved. When you're that good, maybe there's no luck involved. But they were one of the best. When it comes to magic, it will be hard to reproduce what they did. It'll hard to be as successful as they did. So I'll just leave you with the closing pages of this beautiful program. And please come back again here at Hidden Spotlight Treasures, where we are trying to find you some very historic photographs, some beautiful paintings, sculptures, anything that has never been seen before, in memorabilia, collectibles, artwork. That's our goal. We're going to go through this collection. It is a huge collection, so please do check back often.